1904, Figueres, Catalonia. You open your eyes, and hanging above your cradle is a portrait of a boy with your face. Below the portrait, your name, Salvador Dali, written in a frame, written on a gravestone, written in the parish death register, exactly 9 months before you were born. That Salvador died of meningitis. He was 22 months old. He looked at the world through the same dark brown eyes you are now using to stare at the ceiling. Your parents speak of this openly, without shame, without any attempt to hide it. Your father, a notary named Salvador Dali y Cusi, a man with a heavy mustache and an even heavier temperament, says the dead boy's name without a tremor in his voice, like a fact, like a date, like a figure in a legal document. Your mother takes you to the cemetery. Your small fingers touch the wet granite. You read your own name in the stone, cold, frozen forever, indifferent to the fact that you are alive. Psychoanalysts will later write entire volumes about this, about a boy raised in the shadow of a dead brother, about how such a boy spends his entire life proving to the world that he exists. They will be right. But you don't know any of this yet. You are 5 years old, and you are simply standing by a grave, and something tightens in your stomach, something that feels like a question no one can answer. Are you yourself? Or are you his continuation? This question will follow you for the rest of your life. 1909. Childhood as a battlefield. You bite other children out of fear. You need to see their faces at the moment of pain, because only in someone else's reaction do you find proof that you are real. You smash porcelain plates. You push a boy off a bridge. You scream in the most inappropriate places, because screaming is the most honest evidence that you are alive. Your mother watches you with quiet horror and boundless love. Felipa Dominguez Ferez lets you draw everywhere. On the walls, on tablecloths, on the margins of school books. She understands you in a way no one else in this house does. Your father watches differently, with irritation, occasionally with pride, and with the constant sense that his son must grow into something specific, a notary, a lawyer, a man with a firm place in an orderly world. You paint cherries, heavy, almost black, swollen to bursting. The paint is thick and oily. It works its way under your fingernails and stays there. You sit in a small room on the upper floor of the house on Carrer Monturiol, and outside the Catalan sun bleaches the earth white. And you already know one thing with absolute certainty. You want to be Velázquez. Then better than Velázquez. Then someone the world will remember differently from everyone else. At 10, you discover reproductions of the Impressionists, and what happens inside is not admiration, but recognition. As if someone before you had already understood something important about light, and now you want to understand it more precisely. Your drawing teacher, Juan Núñez Fernandez, says aloud what everyone already senses. The boy has real talent. Your father hears this and goes quiet for a long moment. A silence that, if you want it to be, can be read as something close to pride. 1921, February. You are 17. Your mother dies of uterine cancer. She is 47. You almost never speak of this publicly. Years later, you will write a single sentence in your memoirs. This was the most painful blow of my life. And that is all. Not another word. Your father quickly remarries, his late wife's sister. This offends you so deeply, so physically, that you lose your sense of what to hold on to. Your mother was your ground, the one person who loved you without conditions, without a plan, without the shadow of the first Salvador. Now she is gone. You leave for Madrid. 1922, the Academy of San Fernando.
You are 18. The Residencia de Estudiantes is the best thing happening in Spanish culture at this moment. Poets, musicians, scientists, and filmmakers live here side by side. Conversations in the hallways change people. You walk in wearing a velvet jacket with a lace collar. Your hair is long, your gaze hypnotically still. The look of someone who has already made up their mind about themselves, though they have not yet proven anything to the world. It is a mask. You know it is a mask. Underneath, the boy from the Figueres cemetery who read his own name on someone else's gravestone. The mask holds, because it is the only thing you can put between yourself and other people's eyes. Federico Garcia Lorca sees right through you. He is a poet from Granada with the face of a gypsy prophet, and he laughs so hard the window panes rattle. He is the first person to approach you as an equal. You talk all night about Góngora and Velázquez, about death and form, about beauty that frightens. Lorca reads his poems aloud. You show him your drawings. In this exchange there is something rare, almost painful. The recognition between two people who each have something broken inside them in exactly the same way. Luis Buñuel is different. He is from Aragon, solid, sardonic, with a boxer's jaw and the eyes of a man who trusts no one by default. He looks at your work and says, flatly, "You're a madman, but the right kind." From this remark, a friendship will grow that changes the history of cinema. You study with ferocious intensity. You approach Velázquez as a system. You take his painting apart, the way a mechanic dismantles an engine. You draw in a classical, academic manner, with such precision that your professors cannot find the words. Technically flawless, interpretively far beyond what is expected. In 1923, at 19, you are temporarily suspended, officially for inciting disorder, in reality for saying aloud what everyone thinks about the faculty and chooses not to say.
They let you back a year later. You return exactly as you left. In 1925, at 21, your first real exhibition opens in Barcelona. Picasso comes in person. He walks from painting to painting in silence for a long time, then says something quietly and leaves. Someone tells you about it afterward. You think about it for days. 1926. You are 22. The final examination. The examination board sits behind a long table, 3 men in dark jackets, with the faces of people who stopped caring about living work a long time ago. They are supposed to assess you. You look at them and feel something that on the surface resembles contempt, but deeper down is fear. Fear that they will say, "Not good enough." Fear that they might be right. You get there first. You announce that no one present has sufficient competence to judge you. The door closes behind you, heavily, for good. No diploma, no academy, no official career. Only yourself, and as it will turn out, that is more than enough. But on this particular day, walking down a Madrid street with the sun in your eyes, you still don't know. Was that an act of freedom or an act of self-destruction? 1929, Paris, a razor blade. You are 25. You go to Paris with Buñuel. You have a screenplay. 17 minutes. No narrative, no logic. No mercy for the audience. The idea came from a dream, literally. You told Buñuel, "I dreamed that a cloud cut through the moon, the way a razor cuts through an eye." He said, "I had a dream too, a man with a severed hand." They wrote the screenplay in 6 days. One rule: if a scene can be rationally explained, it doesn't make the cut. Only what comes directly from the unconscious, bypassing the censorship of reason. Un chien andalou, the Studio des Ursulines. You sit in the theater with stones in your pockets. Literally, you filled your pockets with stones in case the audience started throwing things at the screen.
The audience sits in paralyzed silence and watches as a razor slowly cuts through an eyeball in extreme close-up, with no cutaway, no camera flinching. Then a hand crawling with ants. Then a man dragging 2 live donkeys on top of grand pianos by a rope. Then more. Nothing means anything. Everything means everything. After the screening, André Breton approaches you, the founder of Surrealism, its chief theorist. He says, "You are one of us. You are a surrealist." You agree. For now, you agree. August 1929, Cadaqués. You are 25. Paul Éluard, French poet, surrealist, acquaintance, arrives in Cadaqués with his wife and daughter. His wife's name is Gala. She is 35. She is Russian, born in Kazan. Her real name, Elena Diakonova. 20 years earlier, she was being treated for tuberculosis in a Swiss sanatorium where she met the young Paul Éluard. They married. Then the war, Paris, bohemian life, Max Ernst, open relationships, the tangled existence of 2 people who long ago outgrew each other. She walks into your house. You look at her. You will spend the rest of your life trying to describe this moment, in memoirs, in interviews, in paint. You will put her face on canvas 1,000 times. You will say that for the first time in your life, you felt no need to scream. Silence. That rare, inexplicable silence that only comes when something outside coincides with something inside. Before that silence, chaos. From the first day you behave like a madman because you are afraid of her and want to impress her, because you don't know any other way. You paint your armpits with methylene blue. You rub fish glue and dung on your body. You laugh hysterically at the exact moments when you are supposed to be still. One day you look at her, and you start laughing, and you cannot stop. It is no longer laughter. It is something coming out of you without permission. She walks over, takes your face in her hands, very calmly, very firmly. She says, "My little boy, we will never be apart." The laughter stops. You cry. For the first time in years, genuinely. Éluard loses his wife. For a long time, you cannot understand why she chose you specifically. Young, nearly broke, strange, afraid of your own shadow. Later you will understand. She was not choosing a person. She was choosing a possibility. She could see what you had not yet seen in yourself. You call her Galushka, then simply Gala, then your goddess, then your Madonna, then the only thing that gives your life meaning. 1929. Your father. You are 25. Salvador Dali y Cusi is a man of principles, a notary with a reputation in Figueres, where everyone knows everyone. He watches what is happening to his son and sees catastrophe. An affair with a married woman 10 years his senior, bohemia, surrealism, scandalous paintings. One of them, "Sometimes I spit with pleasure on the portrait of my mother," causes such a scandal in Barcelona that newspapers write about it. Your father reads the newspapers. A conversation takes place between you that breaks something for good. The details are unknown. The result is not your father throws you out of the house permanently. He changes his will. You are 25. You stand on a rocky cliff above Cadaqués. The sea is below. The sun hits you directly in the face. You take a pair of scissors and shave your head clean. The cut hair falls onto the stones. You bury it in the coastal sand, together with sea urchins, together with the house on Carrer Monturiol, together with the portrait of the dead brother above the cradle.
You buy a small fisherman's cottage in Port Ligat, almost a shack. One room, low ceilings, the smell of salt and fish. You and Gala live there alone, with no money, barely any food. Gala makes soup from whatever there is. You paint. This will be the best time of your life. You will understand that later. 1931. The Soft Watches. You are 27. A hot evening.
Gala has gone to the cinema with friends. You are alone in the studio. On the table, a half-eaten camembert. Soft, nearly liquid, it slowly runs over the edge of the plate. Slowly, heavily, with the dignity of aging flesh. You stare at it and think about time. About the fact that time inside the mind works differently from time on a clock. That in dreams, clocks melt, lose their shape, lose their meaning. That Einstein had already proven it. Time is relative. But Einstein spoke the language of mathematics. You will say it in the language of painting. You pick up a canvas you started earlier, a landscape of Cadaqués, rocks, dry branches. You add 3 watches. They hang. They drip. One is draped over a branch like laundry on a line. One dangles off the edge of a table. One lies flat, covered in ants. Because ants, for you, have always meant decay, disillusion, what comes after. The persistence of memory, painted in a single session. When Gala comes home and sees the canvas, she is quiet for a long time. Then she says softly, "Anyone who sees this will never forget it." She is right. The painting will enter the collection of the Museum of Modern Art in New York. People who have never heard the word Surrealism will recognize it on sight. It will be reproduced millions of times, on posters, textbook covers, coffee mugs. 2.5 inches by 13. The canvas is barely larger than a sheet of paper. 1934. The Surrealist Trial. You are 30. Breton puts you on trial. There are several charges. You speak of Hitler as a psychological phenomenon, without condemnation, with the curiosity of a pathologist. You refuse to publicly denounce fascism. You paint Lenin with an enormous buttock propped up on a crutch. This is read as mockery of communism. You want to make money, a great deal of money. For the Surrealists, this alone is already a betrayal. You arrive at the trial with a thermometer in your mouth, faking illness. While Breton reads out the charges, you methodically remove layer after layer of clothing. Sweater, jacket, waistcoat. And at each removal, you read aloud passages from your text on the paranoid critical method. You say that you are Surrealism itself, that Breton can expel you from the movement, but he cannot expel Surrealism from you. They expel you. Breton rearranges the letters of your name and produces an anagram. Avida dollars. Avid for dollars. This was meant to destroy you in the eyes of intellectual Europe. You embrace the nickname with delight. You start signing letters with it. Gold is a color, you say. Gold is Velasquez. Gold is eternity. You are already looking toward America. 1938. Freud. You are 34. In London, through the writer Stefan Zweig, you are given a single meeting with Sigmund Freud. You bring your painting Metamorphosis of Narcissus and set it in front of the old man without a word. Freud studies it in silence for a long time. Then he says something that will stay with you. He has never seen a painting in which the conscious and unconscious are so completely fused. He tells Zweig afterward that in the classical surrealists he looked for the unconscious. In Dali, he found it without looking. You leave the meeting shaken. Freud will be dead within a year. You will paint his portrait from memory. 1936. London. The Diving Helmet. You are 32. The International Surrealist Exhibition. You walk out to face the audience in full diving gear. A heavy copper helmet, a diving suit,
two greyhounds on leashes. There is no air in the helmet. You wanted to symbolize a descent into the depths of the unconscious. The problem is you gave absolutely no thought to ventilation. The air runs out quickly. You begin to suffocate in earnest. You pound your fists against the glass of the helmet, trying to signal that you are dying. The audience applauds enthusiastically. They see a performance, the genius suffering for his art.
The poet Dylan Thomas figures out what is happening and helps pull the helmet off. You stand before the crowd, gasping, red-faced, hands shaking. The audience is still applauding. You think, so this is what fame is. People applaud even your death. 1940, America. You are 36. The war begins and you and Gala leave. France, Portugal, a ship across the Atlantic. New York receives you with noise, money, and a complete willingness to pay for what it doesn't understand. You walk down Fifth Avenue with an anteater on a gold leash. Photographers shoot. Newspapers run the pictures. You grasp the logic of American fame faster than most Europeans. Here, everything is a show. You have been a show for a long time. You work with Hitchcock. You design the dream sequence for Spellbound. You begin an animated project with Walt Disney, Destino. It will be frozen for half a century and completed after your death. You design window displays for Bonwit Teller department store, and when they alter your design without permission, you walk in and hurl a bathtub through the plate glass. You are arrested. The next day, every newspaper leads with Dali. You write an autobiography, The Secret Life of Salvador Dali. It is not a memoir, it is mythology. You invent your past with the same freedom you bring to painting. Maybe 40% of it is true. Truth was never your primary material. Gala runs everything. The money, the contracts, the meetings, the refusals. She knows the price of every drawing you make. Without her, you would have spent everything long ago. With her, you become wealthy, genuinely wealthy. You are grateful. Gratitude for you has one language. You paint her again and again. Her face in religious scenes, her figure in cosmic compositions. She is the Madonna. She is Leda. She is Galatea. You turn a living woman into an icon, because an icon does not die. Because even now you are terrified of losing her. 1945. The Atom. You are 41. Hiroshima, Nagasaki. You read about the atomic explosions and feel something others will call inhumanity. Horror that is simultaneously awe at the scale. You are a painter. You see form. You look at a nuclear mushroom cloud and see a mathematical symmetry no architect has ever designed. People will condemn you for this. You don't defend yourself. Nuclear mysticism. That is what you call your new period. Everything breaks down into spheres, into atoms, into the smallest possible particles suspended in space, not touching one another. In the Madonna of Port Yegat, figures float. In Dream Caused by the Flight of a Bee, tigers fly out of a fish's mouth. A bayonet does not touch the body. Everything is in the air. Everything is in between. You see freedom in this, liberation from weight, from the body, from death. You have feared death since childhood, since the Figueira Cemetery, since cold granite under your fingers. Now you have an answer in paint. Break matter into parts, and the parts do not die. They simply stop being a form. 1948. You are 44. You return to Spain. Franco is in power. The intellectual emigration does not forgive you for this. Many of those you started out with are in exile, in prison, in the ground. You say you are above politics, that art is above all of it. You paint a great deal on religious themes.
Christ, the Last Supper, the Ascension. You are looking in religion for what you never found in surrealism, in politics, in money, in the noise of American fame. An answer to the question you first asked yourself in the Figueres Cemetery: what comes after? Whether eternity is possible. Christ of St. John of the Cross, 1951. You paint Christ from above, from a bird's eye view, nailed to a cross, suspended over the dark abyss of the bay. No face visible. Only the body, only the outstretched arms, only the darkness below. The City Council of Glasgow buys it for £8,200. The citizens are outraged. Too expensive, too strange. Some call it blasphemy. Then they change their minds. Then they line up to see it. In 1968, at 64, you buy the castle of Poubel for gala. Medieval, heavy, with towers and a courtyard. You restore it, decorate it, paint the ceilings yourself. The bedroom ceiling, gala as Helen of Troy. The dining room ceiling, gods and horses in the manner of Tiepolo. This is your gift. This is your declaration of love in the only language you know. Gala's condition leaves you speechless. She says, "The castle is mine. You come only when I give you written permission." You agree. You sit in Portly Gat and write her letters asking to visit. You are in your 60s, world famous, with money and recognition enough for several lifetimes. And you write letters to a woman asking her to let you come. People look at this and see humiliation. You see structure. A knight and his lady, courtly devotion. A painful, absolute love that requires ritual. You live inside it, because it is the only form large enough to hold what you feel. 1961, the Theater Museum. You are 57. The mayor of Figueres asks you to restore the ruins of the old municipal theater. You say yes, and what begins as renovation becomes a 30-year project. The central work of your life. Not a painting, not a sculpture. A building, a space. A theater that is simultaneously a museum, that is simultaneously the inside of your head. Everything you carry within you, turned outward and installed across 3 floors. You design a geodesic glass and metal dome over the auditorium. You build the rainy taxi, a Cadillac with mannequins inside, and it is always raining inside the car. You install the Mae West room. You have to stand on an exact spot in the gallery for the sofa and 2 fireplaces to resolve themselves into the features of the actress's face. You create the Palace of the Wind, a hall with a trompe-l'oeil ceiling where Gala's floating legs merge into your own. And you already know that you will be laid into the floor of this building, that tourists will walk above your face, that death will become part of the architecture, and in doing so, lose its power over you. 1970. Gala is aging. You are in your 70s. She is in her 80s. She takes medications in doses not recommended for her age. She spends your fees on young men, actors, singers, handsome boys who travel with her and accept her gifts. This goes on for years. You know. You see it. You say nothing. In episodes of old age rage, and they are coming more often, she strikes you, literally raises her hand. You, the great Dali, the man with the upswept mustache that the whole world knows, shrink into the corner of your studio and say nothing. Then she calms down, and you are beside her again. Because being beside her matters more than anything else. People call it pathology. Maybe it is.
But you love her the only way you know how, completely, without remainder, without dignity, without self-preservation. This is your form of love. It always has been. June 1982. You are 78. Gala dies in Port Ligat. She is 87. The doctors say drug interactions, too many medications, too long, too high a dosage. She had been destroying her body for decades, out of rage against time, out of refusal to grow old. She never accepted that the body has its own laws. You transport her body to Pubol. You bury her in the crypt of the castle you built for her.
You dress her yourself in a red Yves Saint Laurent gown, the one she loved. You stand at the coffin yourself. You do not cry. Those nearby find this strange. Your emotions were always loud, theatrical, outsized. Now silence. That same silence. Only this time, it is final. You move into the castle at Pubol. You close the shutters. You stop eating properly. You sit for hours in half-dark rooms. You put down your brushes. The hand that made the persistence of memory, the temptation of St. Anthony, the discovery of America by Christopher Columbus, Christ of St. John of the Cross, that hand rests on your knee and wants nothing more. 50 years of work, thousands of paintings, drawings, prints, sculptures, shop windows, performances, and then stop. August 1984. You are 80. Night. An electrical short circuit in the nurse call button. The bedding catches fire. An 80-year-old man wakes up in flames. You try to slide to the floor. The fire licks your legs. You rasp. Your voice has not been what it was for a long time. The acrid smoke fills the bedroom. The room is burning. The room where you live alone, in the castle you built for her, which she will never leave, because her ashes are here, in the crypt beneath your feet. Rescuers carry you out. Burns, shock, hospital. Then recovery. Then Figueres. You are brought to the Theater Museum. You live in the Torre Galatea, Gala Salvador Dali Tower, which you built yourself, directly above your future grave. This is not a metaphor, literally so. January 1989. You are 84. Figueres, a hospital room. 1V drips, white walls, a feeding tube in your throat. You cannot speak. Your body is a parchment silhouette under the hospital blanket. Parkinson's disease has been advancing for years. Your hands, the hands that once held the brush, have been trembling for a long time. Someone puts on Wagner, Tristan und Isolde. You asked for this yourself. It is an opera about a love that defeats death, about two people who find each other only beyond life. Isolde sings over the body of Tristan and dies of love inside that very song. You look out the window. The Catalan sky in January is gray, heavy, real. Figueres, where you began. The music fills the room. Your heart stops on January 23rd, 1989. Legacy. You are embalmed. Your body in a tuxedo is lowered into the crypt beneath the floor of the Theater Museum in Figueres, exactly where you always intended. Above you, the geodesic dome you designed. Above you, halls filled with your paintings. Above you, the feet of tourists walking across stone paving slabs, unaware that below is you. More than 1 million visitors every year, the second most visited museum in Spain after the Prado. But that is only one line in a long list. The persistence of memory hangs in the Museum of Modern Art in New York. A line forms in front of it every single day. People who have never heard the word surrealism recognize it on sight. It has been reproduced more times than anyone can count. Christ of St. John of the Cross became one of the most recognizable religious paintings of the 20th century.
The animated film Destino, begun with Disney in 1943, was completed in 2003, 14 years after your death, and received an Academy Award nomination. The dream sequence you designed for Hitchcock's Spellbound changed how Hollywood thinks about the visual language of fear. Your jewelry is displayed in the dedicated museum in Figueres, next to the theater. Your words, "The only difference between me and a madman is that I am not mad," are quoted in textbooks, printed on posters, repeated in speeches. The cottage in Port Ligat, the very shack where you and Gala lived on whatever soup could be made from almost nothing, is now a museum. The castle at Pubol is a museum. The house in Figueres where you were born is a museum. 3 museums in one corner of Catalonia, dedicated to one man.
This is rare even by the standards of the very greatest. The mustache still points upward. To 10 past 10. In photographs taken after death, on covers, in the bronze death mask. You designed them at 20 as a provocation. They outlived you. The boy from the Figueres cemetery, the one who read his own name in someone else's gravestone and could not understand whether he existed. That boy became a man whose name a whole theater bears, whose name a whole museum carries, whose name appears in tourist guides for cities all over the world. The first Salvador died at 22 months and lies in the granite of Figueres. The second Salvador died at 84 and lies beneath the floor of his own theater. One of them was a replacement. The second became immortal.